You've probably been scrolling through a dozen AV receiver spec sheets, wondering whether any of them will actually fit into the everyday rhythm of your listening room. You want something that won't make you stare at a maze of menus every time you want to play a vinyl record, and you'd rather spend your money on a unit that actually lets you enjoy your music without constantly tweaking settings. The biggest fear is ending up with a feature-rich box that feels more like a lab instrument than a placemaking piece for your living space. Link is in the description if you want to check the product details on Amazon. Let's talk about the Yamaha N2000A and why it might be the quiet, dependable partner you've been looking for, or why you might walk past it. First off, the category itself, network receivers for the modern hi-fi enthusiast, has become a bit crowded. On paper, many models brag about 4K video pass-through, Dolby Atmos, and a dozen streaming services built in. Those are great for movie nights, but most of us are just trying to get a clean signal from our turntable or stream a high-resolution playlist from a phone or computer. That's where the N2000A starts to differentiate itself. Yamaha chose to focus on audio fidelity rather than overwhelming video processing, which means the internal architecture is tuned for sound, not just for cramming HDMI bandwidth. Who should buy it? If you're a vinyl lover who also dabbles in high-resolution digital files, or someone who wants a single piece that can serve as a dedicated music hub alongside a separate video processor, the N2000A makes a lot of sense. The built-in ESS SABRE ES9026 Pro Ultra DAC is a real asset. It's the same chip you'll find in many standalone DACs that cost a few $100s more. For someone who plugs in a USB source, whether it's a laptop, a tablet, or a dedicated music server, the DAC can handle DSD up to 11.2 MHz and PCM up to 384 kHz. In my own setup, that means I can connect my laptop via USB, fire up my preferred high-resolution library, and hear an immediate lift in clarity without needing an external DAC box. If you're primarily a movie-first household, you might want to skip this unit. The HDMI implementation is solid, but it doesn't support the latest 8K or all the immersive audio formats you'd find in a dedicated home theater AVR. You'll get basic 4K video and standard Dolby Atmos processing, but the emphasis is clearly on audio quality rather than the latest video tricks. In that scenario, pairing a simpler video processor with a dedicated headphone or speaker amp could give you more flexibility. Now, let's look at the practical strengths. The toroidal power transformer Yamaha uses is more than a buzzword. It actually provides a smoother DC rail, which translates to less hum and a more expansive soundstage in real-world listening. When I hooked the receiver up to a modest bookshelf speaker pair in a medium-sized living room, the music filled the space with a realism that made me feel like the band was right there. That realism is most noticeable on acoustic instruments, think piano or acoustic guitar, where the fine detail of the strings is preserved without sounding artificial. Another strong point is Yamaha's MusicCast ecosystem. It's not just a gimmick, it lets you group multiple Yamaha network devices together over Wi-Fi, so you can stream the same source to a kitchen speaker, a bedroom ceiling speaker, and the living room front left speaker with a single command. In practice, that means I can start a jazz playlist on my phone, walk into the kitchen, and the music continues seamlessly, no extra clicks or repairing needed. The app is straightforward, and the receiver remembers recently played services, so you're not constantly scrolling through a long list. On the flip side, the weak spots are mostly about what the device doesn't do. There's no dedicated Phono preamp input that offers separate grounding or adjustable loading. The built-in Phono stage is fixed, which works fine for most cartridges but could be limiting if you own a high-end moving magnet tube setup that benefits from fine-tuned load values. Also, while the USB DAC is fantastic, the receiver only supports USB audio via a computer or a media server. There's no native Bluetooth aptX HD support for high-resolution streaming. If you rely heavily on wireless streaming from a phone, you'll need to add a separate Bluetooth receiver or stick to Wi-Fi MusicCast. Usability is where a lot of receivers stumble, but Yamaha kept the front panel uncluttered. The main knob is a volume control that feels smooth and gives you fine granularity down to -80 dB, useful when you're listening at night. The remote has a dedicated music button that instantly drops you into the streaming mode, and the input selector is a simple rotary switch. You don't have to dig through menus to change from CD to phono to USB. For anyone who's a bit less tech-savvy, that simplicity is a real time saver. One practical scenario that highlights the N2000A's value is the weekend cocktail party you host. You can preload a USB flash drive with a curated playlist, plug it into